and welcome. This is the live Q&A AESOP. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We are joined today by Johnny Severin, who is the writer and producer. We've got Nicole Coulon, who plays Marie. We have Erin L, who plays Ruth, and Corinne Bachaud, who plays Jasper. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And we're going to start off by playing the trailer. So I'm going to share that with everyone now, and you can have a bit of an idea. If you haven't seen A.E.S.O.P, they'll still give you a bit of a kind of an intro. If you have seen it but not recently, it's a bit of a reminder. So I'm going to just share that for you now.
Maybe I don't want to live without you.
When we're in love, we care about someone else as much as ourselves. We're no longer afraid of death. It's like we can never die. It's about eternity.
No one can know what A.E.S.O.P is or what we do.
Lives are on the line. I understand.
We can't have a social life, no friends, family, and no intimate relationships.
I told you, A.E.S.O.P is everywhere. They know everything. We developed a pill that ends aging.
So, how old are you?
86.
This is going to be interesting.
I use an algorithm to decide who gets it and who doesn't. So knock at the door, you open it, all of a sudden it's them, and it's over.
You're the only thing that makes sense in the chaos, the beacon of light in a void of darkness. You're the only thing that makes sense in the chaos when nothing else exists. Only a thing that makes sense. Only the only thing that makes sense. Only the only thing that makes sense. Only the only thing that makes sense.
So there we go. That was A.E.S.O.P, the trailer. So as I say, we are joined today by a number of the cast and also the writer and producer. So let's start with Johnny. Can you give us a bit of an introduction of how did you write this story? Where did this come from? And yeah, how did it come to be?
I was actually a philosophy professor at one point, and one of the essential questions we always ask in philosophy is how do we, as finite beings, live in an infinite universe? And so I'm always playing around with that idea, and this is just one of the many ideas that I came up with to try to explore that and with the relationship. And yeah, so it started with that idea, and then I figured the best way to tell that story usually is with a personal relationship instead of like a big grand one. And yeah, so I started with a short story, just a very short story of just their relationship, and then slowly built it from there. So we actually made it shorter, the short story, and then used that to raise money to write the feature and make the feature.
Excellent. That's an interesting way of financing. To create a short first. That's because one of the biggest challenges, I guess, is financing films these days. So good to hear that's a useful method. I think a few people have tried that, and it's a good way. So let's ask. Nicole, Erin, and Corinne, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you came on board.
How or what?
How you came on board for the film.
So for me, it started with an audition with Johnny, just through kind of a normal casting, and just had a lot of fun with it, and then got to read with a lot of potential Ruths, and that's where I met these lovely ladies. And yeah.
So you came on, but you came on board first then. What about the story really kind of tied you in? Was there something particular that you thought, this is the reason I want this film?
I just thought Marie was really fun and free, and it would just be, good times to be able to like jump into that and play her. And it just had a lot to do with the real world, like the way Johnny described it, as this company kind of like Amazon just getting bigger and bigger and controlling. And it's like now where we're at, like, yes, everything is controlled by these certain individuals of these huge companies. And so that part of it was really like, a screw you to the man type of idea. So that really caught my eye.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
And Erin, how about yourself?
Yeah. As Nicole said, I was one of the potential Ruths that came in, and initially I did a self-tape for Johnny, and then he brought me in. I believe this is the path that I remember. He brought me in, and I read with Nicole, and we kind of like, it felt like we vibed and it made sense, and I guess Johnny liked us paired together. So that's how I came on board, basically. We also sat down and like had a little like lunch together after that, after he paired us, and it really like put me at ease and made sure that made me know that this was going to be a fun project and it was going to be great. And like he really had a full backstory for both of us, and really had us like fleshed out in his mind already.
Okay. I think you're right. Chemistry is quite important, and that's something that's really kind of clear on this. Corinne, how about yourself? Do you want to describe how you came to the project and what really drew you to this script?
Yeah, well, I'm always seeking more ways to help bring stories like this to life, specifically queer stories, and making, them more and more prevalent so that maybe they can be mainstream. I also was auditioning for Ruth, and up there in the contenders, auditioned with Nicole a couple times, and they, of course, found their Ruth with Erin, but Johnny really wanted me on board anyways, and so was able to offer me Jasper, which was really fun and a lot more like it was a lot less of a stretch for me to perform Jasper. It was much more aligned with my own like personal style and stuff, and it was fun to kind of get to have a moment of a love triangle. Yeah.
And I think actually that was I guess it shows that there was a little bit of chemistry there as well, because that sits nicely in those kind of scenes where you've got that clear, you're like, there's something here, you can tell, you're just like, oh dear, and I think that was really nice to have that kind of dynamic there as well. So that's really interesting. So you mentioned slightly about Erin, how long ago this was. Johnny, in terms of timelines, so a big thing I particularly with the kind of independent film is how long it takes to get these things made and to the audience really. How long did this journey take you? Like, when did you come up with the script? When were you able to start filming? And like, what time frames are we talking about?
Well, the short was written about 2014, and we shot the short. The script for the short was 2014. We shot it in 2016, and then it took another 2 years to get the funding to do the feature. Shot in 2018. Shot in August of 2018. And so it took about over a year to edit and get the music and get everything. So it came out 2019. So about 5 years from the very beginning to actually came out. Yeah. which is about normal.
Wow.
It's about the normal. I always tell people when you're making movies, be patient. It takes a long time, especially the funding. You mentioned the funding. The funding is by far the hardest part and the slowest part.
Yeah, no, for sure. 5 years is a long time, but doesn't seem to be unusual at the moment at all. We had Forever Not Maybe out, and that took 5 years to almost to film and edit. They filmed it over, I think, 2 years. So, yeah, it's frustrating, but obviously it's worth taking the time to get the good end product. And you mentioned music in this. The soundtrack to A.E.S.O.P is just divine. Really works so well and really finishes it off lovely. So it is really important to have good sound and good music behind it. We've had a question come in actually on Facebook. Polly Barker wants to know, what was the biggest inspiration behind the film? So this will be for Johnny.
Inspiration. I think Nicole actually hit on a good point. Is we're getting to an area where in our world where fewer and fewer people are controlling everything. And so that was one of the main inspirations, was to come up with a story where become really not a future world, I guess an alternative reality, where really almost the entire world is controlled by one organization, and just the effects that it has on everybody, and how dangerous that can be. So that was one of the original intents.
Brilliant. Excellent. If anyone else has any questions, you can just ask them in your chat, whatever platform you're on, they will come up. And so in terms of playing these characters, Erin, what was your favourite scene?
Oh, gosh. That's like asking what your favorite child is.
Oh, really? Is there one that stands out? Like, if you think of the whole film, which scene kind of jumps out first in your mind?
I feel like me and Nicole had some like serious dance parties going on in between, so like those are some of my more fond memories. Like in between things, like we were at this bar shooting, and like crew joined us, and we had a full dance party. We had a full dance party in Johnny's kitchen as well. Like it was really fun, and like I also enjoyed the very intense moments. Like we were like at the end where we're like being, I don't know if have they seen this? Should I not give it away? I don't know.
I think you should be okay. Just, yeah, spoiler alert, everyone.
Okay. I'll try not to give too much, but like there's kind of a, I don't want to say a standoff, but like the end gets kind of intense, and like that, like being able to dive into something like that with someone as strong as Nicole as well, like and bouncing off each other and basically being surrounded, it's kind of fulfilling as an actor. But I loved having Corinne too. I was very grateful when we first had our table read together, because I did see her in the audition, and I was like, I'm so glad that you're part of this. I remember that, like it made me really happy to see her again. So like I think the community in LA is smaller than it seems sometimes, so it's nice to be able to see the same faces and cool people, like good people.
Cool. Nicole, do you have a scene that kind of stands out for yourself?
I remember when basically after I get ghosted by Ruth, when I finally like find her again and come in, I don't know why, that one was really fun to shoot. It was just a fun energy to be like, we found each other again, and there was a lot going on dynamic wise. Like, she doesn't want me there and she's trying to protect me, but I'm like, I finally found you, and like, don't give up on this. And yeah, I don't know, that scene stands out for me. And then and yeah, just having like that partnership and that like one person that you're like ride or die, it's us against the world, like that feeling, like it rang true throughout the process. Like we kept that alive, I feel like, behind the scenes and on set, and we just had each other's backs, and it made it better to go through the story.
like that, made it real.
Yeah, I think with all the characters, there's a real feeling of like you can feel that kind of bonding and closeness, which I think again, like indie sets tend to have that. I think because you just have a different vibe that everyone really comes together. Corinne, what was your kind of favorite moment? I know you've not got as many scenes, but like, do you have a favorite interaction or something that happened on set?
I really enjoyed the snarky scene with the avocado bombs.
Oh, yeah.
And just getting to kind of be my snarkiest barista self. When I was a barista, I was never that snarky. But then also just like, I really enjoyed, because there is so much chemistry between Erin and Nicole, getting to like intrude and like kind of feed off of it in like a, tense way. That was also really fun, of like, it was palpable enough that like walking into it, it was not hard to then like feed off of that with that. Yeah, it was fun. And just I think your character in a coffee shop was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think all those scenes, they really kind of add like really interesting depth to what's going on, and just, as you say, a different tone, because you've all got quite different personalities, and I think those interactions are really interesting. Johnny, is there a particular scene that kind of came off really well, or something that maybe you didn't plan that kind of ended up happening that you think you were just so happy it happened? Like,
the hard part is happened so long ago, it's hard to remember all that. That happens a lot. I mean, there are a lot of things. The one that there's a really tiny thing, but in the scene after Marie gets found out by Alexandria and gets confronted and scared, and she has to go to the park, and she has to and then talk to Ruth about it and tell Ruth about it, and she's scared. And we had Erin standing in front of a tree, and the tree had like a Y, and she was standing right by the Y, and her first line is, they know. And actually, I think it was our DP Vin came up with the idea. It's like, hey, why don't we have her like click her head? Like, hey, they know. It's not, anything scripted, and it works so perfectly. You couldn't have planned it any better. But just one of the many, there's so many of those that happen. Just happen. I will say, talking about the first back what you guys were talking about, back to Vin, talking about dancing. So our DP was wonderful to work with. One thing he did is, to talk about the small independent feel, is because making a movie is so stressful and so difficult. 12, 16-hour days. But in between takes, when there was breaks, he would just blast music. And it was a dance party in between most scenes. And it was a lot of fun, because you really need that. I mean, otherwise, everybody gets fried. And he would dance too, and he's about one of the worst dancers ever. So,
his own type of moves. They're fun.
It's some moves.
Yeah, it's a good.
Carlton. That's about that all.
And that's a really good thing to kind of keep energy on set. A really good kind of tip is like, because I guess music has the ability, and I think that's why it's important in film as well, to change your mood and change your kind of mindset and really kind of keep energy. So that's really, really interesting. We've had another comment come in. Lenita Bailey says she loved the script. How long did it take to write? Were there any stumbling blocks, as it's quite a complicated story?
So as I said, it started off as a short story, and that took a while to write. But that was just like the first act, so the first like 20 minutes of the movie, and it expanded actually a lot of stumbling blocks. This is like the 4th or 5th version of the script, and we went through so many different attempts of trying to make it a feature, try to extend it, because it is very complicated, and to make it work. And there was a balance between the romance part and the A.E.S.O.P part, and just trying to find that balance. We had one version was seemingly much more romance, and that didn't really work. We had another version that was much more A.E.S.O.P. We had one that was actually more of an action adventure one, where it's kind of like the girls, like the Poker Girls, and Ruth were kind of more like the Charlie's Angels and kind of fighting against A.E.S.O.P. And it did not work at all. That was probably the worst. It was fun to write, but it just didn't. We tried, and a lot of stumbling blocks, and it's just a trial and error. So I have so many versions of the scripts like on my computer. It's kind of I try not to read the older ones because it's just. So and then this one when this one came about, it did come out pretty quickly, but it was only after like many different tries. So they're trying to find that balance. So.
Yeah, and I guess with something that's got so many elements of like sci-fi and things and like conspiracy theories and stuff, there's that real challenge of obviously going too far in one direction. As you say, it's that kind of real balance. I feel like you've got it well. I guess the challenge as well is how you say, like, as you say, an action sounds great, but obviously the budget goes up quite a lot for that because you got kind of, much more risk and you potentially special effects and stuff. And I feel like you did a really good job of kind of bringing in sci-fi elements, but in a way that actually allowed you to kind of be quite clever and keep it kind of, I guess, a manageable cost, which means you can really focus on key important things like sound, music, and the actual visual. Not so much a question, but a comment. Someone let Jenna Jimenez know she did great as Betty, loved the performance. So a few fans out there as well. Also a fan of Nicole as well. Barbara says hello, Nicole and Erin. So and
Barbara.
someone called Michael, we love Corinne. So we've got some fans watching as well. So that's really good.
So Jenna is actually best friends with the director, Catherine. And so that's how she. Catherine was like, I know this amazing actor. You really should put her in the movie. And once she auditioned, we're like, yeah, absolutely. And it was just a matter of finding a role for her. So
yeah, she's so sweet and funny, which you don't really get from this, obviously. But and also she had to like act her scenes a few times, right? Like there were a couple.
We reshot some stuff.
Yeah.
One of the tragic stories is it's the nightmare for every film.
Not to bring it up. Sorry,
I know. But it was on the I think the first day of shooting. Actually, we lost footage. We lost about a half a day of footage. So we lost a whole card's worth of footage. We had to
it looked so good.
Yeah, and it was so good. And I won't tell anybody what it was. So, but yeah, and we had no budget to like reshoot it, so that was even the harder part. We found a way to reshoot it, but it was So so she had to do a bunch of her scenes twice. Yeah, and Erin did too as well. So. But still worked out. But Jen actually is nothing like Betty in real life. She I would say she's almost more like a clown of anything. I mean, she's just super funny, like crazy, outrageous funny, and it's a lot of fun on set.
So in terms of the journey this film's gone on, would you say that you found it easy to get the film out to an audience, or in terms of, and who do you feel like who would you say is the audience we're making this film for? And do you think that changed as well during the kind of process?
I honestly, I'll be honest, I try not to think about audiences too much because I actually that's more like a studio thing. I just me personally, when I do stuff, I just try to create something that I'm proud of, that I want to see, and that and hope other people like it, as opposed to like trying to find an audience and trying to see who's going to like it. So I try to avoid that question, because then you start going down a wrong path, and you start chasing things. I try to let things organically grow, and that's what happened with this one. So it is a sci-fi lesbian love story. So I really don't think anybody can accuse me of trying to go after a target audience.
No, I mean that is the good thing. You've kind of got some really kind of different genres and audiences all in together. I think that's the best thing with film, is actually you kind of different people will enjoy different aspects of it, and you have got lots of layers to this film, and that's really kind of, I think, what makes it quite interesting, is because it's kind of got much more as I say, the depth I think I keep going back to, but I think it does have that to it, which is really interesting. So we've got another comment, which is that actually loved Erin's awkwardness. Is that something, I'd say, is that something that was like scripted or kind of given to you as the character, or is that something that's kind of you've put in yourself? Or tell us a little bit about how Erin's persona came about.
So it was kind of built into the script a bit. Like Ruth was definitely naturally awkward. I'm a little naturally awkward too, so you can say I pulled a little bit from myself, but just the fact that she has isolated herself so much for so many years, like it's just natural for a person to be awkward. It's natural for a person who is shut off the outside world so much to have these not weird, awkwardness is great. I embrace it, but like it's natural for someone to become comfortable with oneself that these things start coming out more. But she's also very uptight too, so she has the balance of multiple things, trying to be perfect.
She's old-fashioned.
Yeah, well, I mean, the irony there of exactly. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? She's grown up in a complete, and it's kind of easy to forget that she's grown up in a completely different time. I mean, I love the flashbacks. I think they're really good as well. But yeah, it's so easy to kind of just think of, Ruth as modern day Ruth, but actually, yeah, Ruth's been through many decades of Ruth, so that's kind of quite interesting. So Katie here on Facebook is saying, she's from A2Q film, which is a short film being filmed at the moment. Would love to know how Erin and Nicole felt about the story and built such good chemistry. Again, that's where we said earlier, chemistry is everything for film, and we've really got it. So let's start with Nicole. How did you feel about building this chemistry? Was it really easy, or like do you have any hints or tips for kind of actors in terms of making it easier?
Oh, that's a hard one. I feel like we kind of took it step by step. Like it was the audition, the callback, like Erin was saying, our like lunch together and just being in communication, like slowly getting to know each other and the scripts like at the same time. And then you have to kind of just see what happens in the moment and how things are feeling and kind of either go with it or like wait to hear that that's the wrong way, go another way. But yeah, I think it kind of was just natural, just opening up. I mean, Marie is like a really loving person and yeah, I think meeting someone like Ruth was just exciting for her because any different type of person is fun to kind of like get to know and even like pick at a little bit. So yeah, it kind of came natural with like the background of where our characters were coming from and then in the moment how we felt, I guess.
Yeah. And we had a lot of texting communication at the very start of it, like before we started filming and like getting to know each other during the process. Like, I don't believe I had much prep for this. I think like casting Ruth was later in the game. So I kind of dove in head first, and she's so lovely to be around, so it's very easy to get along with her.
And even like reading this script together and going through lines and stuff, like any moment where we felt like this is weird, or like did we say that before, like whatever, we would just go to Johnny and be like, well, it doesn't feel right for me to say this or this, and he'd be like, oh god, here we go again. But he would
but he was flexible.
He was. There was like a weird hot moment where I was even maybe gonna play Ruth and someone else like in the beginning it was very we didn't know, so like I looked into that character a lot and looked into Marie a lot, so I feel like that also helped to be able to be so open to Erin.
Yeah, and we also spent some time like right before we shot at Nicole's apartment and like going through all of our scenes together and like kind of picking them apart and making sure like we felt comfortable with what we were bringing to it, I believe. And I mean, near the end of it, we to save money, we were doing our own makeup. So we were putting on makeup at the same time and joking around and dancing, and like you bond over the experience. So I think that just adds to the chemistry.
Yeah. I mean, and again, that's one of those things from indie filming, really, isn't it? I guess that, yeah, you kind of get much more involved because everyone has multiple hats. In terms of Corinne, would you say, would you wish you had, like, if you could do like a sequel to this film, where do you think you see your character going, or is there anything you'd love to kind of explore more around kind of Jasper? Because I think that's kind of one of the things I think is always the challenge is how much you could fit into a film, and so often there's obviously like more or things you'd have like time to do. So is there anything particularly that you in particular would like to get out of Jasper's character more?
I'm interested in kind of how things might have ended between Jasper and Marie, because there is like such a heartbreak. And I mean, I think that's a classic dynamic of like, you know, someone feeling less strongly about a breakup than another person, and seeing how that ended. But I mean, you know, I can come up with like a million ways in which Jasper could be inserted into the story, but I'm not sure any of them necessarily would be like doing the story justice. So
I think it's interesting, isn't it? A lot of the things that happen, they are very relatable, and I think again is why the film's quite popular, because there's all these little things that you can kind of go, oh yeah, you know, I've been through a breakup where that's happened, or you know, I've experienced that. Even the awkwardness of not being yourself, we all can relate to if we've not been out, kind of that whole like trying to hide things. So all those different little micro parts of the conversation, I think, also really help people to kind of just connect with the film more. So that I do think has been really interesting, and really some of the reasons I think that's just really stuck. In terms of the music, I know we've not got the composer here, but what kind of process went through kind of creating the music for this film? Like, did you have anything in mind, or was it all completely written from scratch? Because the soundtracks just, I think, really just does that. It's the icing on the cake, really, of the film. So can you explain a little bit around that?
Yeah, Asha did an outstanding job. She's incredibly talented. We're very lucky to get her. The process was actually, what I like to do is I come up with, so we finished the film, we cut the film completely, and then we sent it to the composer. And one thing I like to do is come up with pop songs that I think might fit, that we could never use. We don't have the money to get the rights to, but I put them in. And so I did that. And actually I used one artist, a relatively obscure indie artist named Lizzie, Lissie. And because she has, her tone was very similar to the tone of the movie. And so we did all of her music. And so Asha was able to hear that and then able to work on that, work from that. So and she, I'll be honest, I've worked with many different composers, and Asha was by far the easiest one to work with. She would send me files. I'd say, oh, this works except for this little part. And then within a day, she sent me, well, how does this work? And then it was just a back and forth. I mean, I've had composers take months, and this took maybe a couple of weeks to do the whole thing. So.
I like the idea of providing alternative music, as you say, that you can't use, and that this is obviously one of the problems of film, is you'd love to put in these really famous tracks that everyone will go, oh, I know that song, I love it, and you just can't afford it. But that's a really interesting method, because as you say, you've got a really good tone to it there. So that's really good. And in terms of your hopes for this film, I guess, for anyone who's watching who loves it, like, do you have any kind of like words of thanks, or how can people support this film more, I guess, really? Because I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like often these films get made and people just watch them, but I think it's actually nice to kind of be able to communicate with your audience. And I guess, yeah, is there anything people could do, or to, you know, support, and also, is anyone working on anything else that they'd like to tell people about? Because I think that's also nice as well, to share what else is kind of happening as well. Johnny, are you working on anything else, or how can, you know, any messages for your kind of the audience at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I am working on something else, but don't want to talk about it right now, to be honest. So,
Okay.
until it's done. So, I mean, just obviously, just stand watching it, share it. If you like it, share it with your friends. To be honest, we love being on Lesflick. It's been outstanding. You guys have been incredibly supportive, and it's a wonderful site, and we're very proud to be on it on the site. So yeah,
Thank you. Lenny's actually just said, I love this film. I love sci-fi and of course lesbians. This was brilliant. So you've obviously merged her two favorites into one. So there's not that many actually sci-fi lesbian films, I think. So I think it's not. I think that's probably, again, it's quite interesting to see a bit of difference. Nicole, sorry, Johnny. Yeah.
So you have Passages, I think, is on your site. That's another sci-fi lesbian story.
Yeah, Passage series. For me, I feel like I need season 2 quicker because it's so short and small, and you get into it and then it's over, and you're just like, damn. Which is, that's, I think, again, the challenge of like, how do you make more? But I know that they're definitely working on season 2 for that. Well, Nicole,
almost nobody's working on anything right now. It's very difficult to shoot anything right now. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is the challenge. It's whether things have been, anything that was in post-production might have a small chance, but it's just a bit of a nightmare right now. Nicole, do you have any messages for your fans, for anyone who's kind of seen the A.E.S.O.P, and also maybe where else they might find you if there's anything past or coming up that might be coming out?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, just thank you to everyone who's watched it and had kind words. It means so much. We put a lot into it, and we're hoping for the best result, obviously, and that, as many people as possible could see it. But yeah, I mean, at that point when we were shooting, I was recently like getting into writing and thinking about like making projects of my own. So being on set, I kind of was taking in so much more than I had before, of kind of just being like cast as a part and like being the actress and just like whatever. In this situation, it was kind of like, let me take everything in and like learn from every single person and really understand what it takes to like make something happen. And then after we had shot that, I got to shoot an episode that I wrote. And yeah, so I've just been trying to create more and more. Some of them are more skits, some of them are episodes, but with my partner, Birdie, who's also a woman. And we have just been having so much fun. Like, luckily 2020, yes, has been rough, but we've been able to just make things with each other and keep writing and have more and more projects kind of like ready to go when things can shoot again. So yeah, that's what I've been working on.
Excellent. And Erin, any message for your fans and anything that people can see you in elsewhere, past, present, or future?
Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to us that you're supporting our film and you're supporting independent film. I'm grateful that we're on Lesflick. I've booked things. I don't know if they will shoot. Fingers crossed we'll get to a point where they will shoot. I'm sure we will at some point. I've just, at the beginning of this, I had booked some stuff too, and I had been traveling around, and all of that was like wiped. So we're like, it's just a period where we're, like holding and waiting and growing and learning, and can't shoot all the time, I guess. So it's,
I'm hearing a lot of people writing. Yeah, I hear a lot of people writing, so hopefully there'll be some really good scripts coming through, sure. And an influx of ideas and things. So yeah. And Corinne, how about yourself? Any messages for anyone who's seen you on screen, and anywhere else people can see you?
Yeah, I mean, to reiterate, thank you so much for watching and enjoying it. It was a labor of love from a lot of people, so we're very grateful. Yeah. So the most recent thing that I've done is still in post because some of the post-production also got put on hold, the pandemic. But keep a lookout for the movie Roller World coming out sometime soon. It's a fantastic movie about roller skating vampires, and it's so much fun.
Roller skating vampires.
Also very queer, kind of in the style of Jennifer's Body and Lost Boys, and some ridiculous, very fun, so much fun stuff. So I don't know any more information about it. It was supposed to come out a little bit earlier in the fall, but alas. So and I think you can follow the movie on Instagram at Roller World Movie.
Okay.
For updates. Yeah.
Well, that's definitely something we can all do because we've all got a lot of time for social media right now. One of the few things that's still going. Yeah, so interestingly, it looks like you've got potentially a fan from that. Roller skating vampires, I'm sold.
Yeah.
Nicole as well, if you want to share, if you've got a link to your skits, it sounds like people would like to see those as well. So do share a link. For anyone who hasn't seen A.E.S.O.P, I'll also put the link for that in so you can get to see that, because if you haven't seen it yet, you really should. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's really hard right now to kind of know when things will get started. There's been a few projects, interestingly, some people managing to find ways to shoot during lockdown. I've seen a few where they've actually just turned the cast into crew. As you say, like it's not unusual to find indie filmmakers where you do your own makeup, but we've heard of boxes being sent to sets and them just doing everything. So it's also interesting for, I guess, multi-skilling and, as you say, learning new kind of tricks and things as well. But
yeah, I did do a short film that was like completely done on Zoom, so that was interesting. It's called The Evil Wedding Planner. I don't know.
The Evil Wedding Planner.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. Do you have like a bit of an outline of what I mean? I'm guessing it's about a wedding planner who's not very nice, but is a bit more about the
it's like the meetings between the wedding planner and the bride over Zoom, and then you kind of see what happens. Yeah, there's like samples being sent over, and maybe something tragic happens. You'll see. I don't know. I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, that's a fun one. It was interesting to like be only acting and rehearsing with people, through Skype and Zoom, but we're doing what we can.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing, isn't it? It's quite hard. The one thing we almost are getting used to, but not, which is the flat interaction between us all, which is I guess how we consume film, but it's still very different and not the same. Interestingly, Lenita would also like to see Erin and Nicole again in something, as you've got good chemistry. So
thank you. We'll work on it.
Same.
Would love.
Yeah.
You just do Jasper, Marie, Ruth situation, figure something out with that story. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in.
That love triangle, you can do a full movie on that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that kind of love triangle is one of those storylines that really just does work. I mean, if you look at things like Happiest Season that just got released, the whole thing where you've got interesting, I think that's quite interesting because the chemistry was maybe between the wrong two people, which meant that a lot of people read the film in a different way and wanted a different ending. So I think that's interesting to show that you can get good chemistry and you can get chemistry that doesn't quite work, and that casting is so important. So yeah, it's really, I think, about having the right chemistry between the right people and then making sure the storyline and the scenes work as well. I think what I really love is that you've got so much positivity between Nicole and Erin's characters that you really buy into that relationship. And I think that's what probably was missing from Happy Season, is there wasn't enough time to love them as a couple before you were thrown into just negative scenes. And then it's all those little things you can really see what impact a film. So that's down to kind of your writing being, really good, and your, what gets kind of edited together. It just shows that a film is so complex. And I feel like A.E.S.O.P's done a really good job of bringing everything together into a really, quality film that's really, you buy into it, you're there, you're feeling it. And it takes us on this, really good journey. So it was a very, very pleasurable to watch and a great film, and really honoured to be able to support it, because I think it's just so nice to see those stories that you really kind of just love and that you can watch. And I think it is one of those films you can just watch and watch again, and you don't feel like you're like, I've seen that now, I put it to one side, because there's just so much to enjoy. And as I say, the soundtrack is just makes the film such a pleasure. So is there anything else? Sorry.
No, that's just such kind words. Thank you. I appreciate all that. That's awesome.
Is there anything anyone else wanted to kind of share or talk about, either AESOP or not related?
First, yeah, I do. Corinne talked about her character. I will say this: when we were doing PR photos, one of the hardest decisions we had to make was she had so many snarky looks. It was nearly impossible to pick one or two. I mean, we had dozens to choose from. She just nailed it every single time. That character was so much fun. Yeah, so she was outstanding in that. Erin first talked about the confrontation scene that's at the very, very end. And there's one thing that I like to share. That actually was Nicole's first day of shooting when we shot that scene, which is a very difficult shoot for your first day of shooting. I was an idiot for planning it that way.
I was like, hi, nice to meet you. Okay, now we're gonna face off at the end of the vlog.
Because it was the most difficult scene to shoot by far. It's with 5 people. It's very long. It's like
no, it was like, what was it, like 7 pages?
7 pages. And
we learned it like a play.
Yeah, exactly. So we shot it. It's her facing everybody else. So we shot everybody else, and then we're going to shoot her last. It was at the end of the day because we needed to be at night. It was the end of a long day of shooting, and we got to the end, and we had hit the 12-hour mark, and I thought everybody was exhausted, and also at the 12-hour mark, financially, things get a lot more expensive after that. You start going to overtime for everything, and also the crew is only scheduled for 12 hours, so we have to make sure they want to go forward. So I made the really stupid decision at the moment to stop production, and then the next day shoot Nicole Marie's turnaround scenes, her close-up for that scene, which is an incredibly powerful scene. However, 2 of the actors weren't going to be there the next day, so only Ruth was going to be there, but Mark and Lauren weren't going to be there the next day. So that meant that Nicole was going to have to shoot without 2 actors being there for saying their line, which is also much more difficult. And so I decided to end it, and immediately Erin and Mark, I think Erin first just yelled at me. It's like,
I didn't yell at you. I was like, she's been here providing us with such a well of emotion and such presence. Like, I wasn't yelling at you. I was just like, I was stern. Like, I felt like at that moment, she provided like so much for us all throughout the day. And we owed it to her to have that same intensity, because without them there, yeah, very stern, very scary people, like without them there, like it's just a different environment, and then we'd all have to dig back into it. But like, I just felt like she like sacrificed a lot for us throughout the day, and like the least we could do was get her stuff in, like in my opinion.
And that's what I mean about like the sticking together for each other on set and the characters.
And Mark and Lauren both were like, yeah, we don't want to do this, unless. And then I asked the crew, and every crew member said, yeah, we'll stick around, no problem. And they didn't even charge overtime. And it was like the independent film community just coming together and just like supporting Nicole over this, and just.
That's so true. That was a great moment. I felt first very, very scared and like, oh, okay, I'm not going to look the same or give the same performance tomorrow. And then was like so grateful and appreciative of everybody just being there for me. And yeah, it was great. Thank you.
Nothing else, though. Anybody who watches the movie knows that she nailed it. She just,
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's really good to hear that. I guess having that happen on day one probably actually really solidified your cast and crew as a unit, and probably actually that's the kind of stuff that really like helps things just happen and the magic happen, because everyone's suddenly like, we're a team. So maybe it was a good thing that happened on day one, because it's kind of, that's real kind of bonding happens right from the beginning.
It's very true.
Yeah, very true.
I have plenty of other co-stars that I'm supposed to be in love with that treat people terribly and are not good people, that it's like full-blown acting, whereas like, yeah, when it comes to Erin, that wasn't the case. So it was very nice, very sweet.
Yeah, I was actually ecstatic when it happened. I was like, "This is going to be a really great shoot." You know, if they're fighting against me, that this is going to be a great shoot. So.
I mean, she deserved it. Like, Johnny, she deserved it. She deserved that support.
It worked out for the best.
Yeah.
Very quickly before we go, so coming up to the hour, let's talk a little bit about your director. So obviously you had Catherine as a director. How did you choose who was going to direct this film, and how important to you is having the right director for a film? Because I think that's quite a key kind of role as well. And obviously, as you say, your crew is quite important. I think it's good to talk about the director as well.
Well, first of all, I wanted to make sure we had a female director for this. That was essential for the storyline. And Catherine actually was an actor in a previous project I was in, and I just noticed that she was incredibly smart and asked all the right questions and was kind of directing when she was acting. And so when I started this project, I thought of her, and I talked to her about directing it. She actually wanted to be in it. I was like, I actually think you'd be better directing, and she was actually pretty excited about that. She still wanted to be in it, but so we actually, she had never directed before, and so I actually kind of I don't want to say trained her, but I actually spent some time teaching her about directing, and she learned a lot. She was great. She was outstanding.
Wow.
She was a really peaceful, gentle presence on set at all times, and she definitely helped us come together too. She's amazing.
Yeah, I will say, to do it peaceful is one of the funniest things. Is she said the quietest action and cut of any director I've ever worked with. So the softest, kindest. She's a very incredibly kind, sweet person. Now it's a shame she's not here. I contacted her numerous times, but she moved to New York. She's no longer in LA, so it's tough. So yeah, but she was great. So she planned most of the visuals, and so if you like the visuals, that was most of her. So,
yeah, it's really good to hear that you've kind of identified. You obviously saw an actor on set and how they responded, and then you've approached them and given them their first role. So I guess that's really good for kind of anyone out there who's an actor who's maybe thinking about creating their own stuff, that really how you act on set has a big impact on the next job you get, and also the opportunities open to you, which is and it's really nice to hear that you kind of really, I guess, mentored in a way and gave that opportunity, because I think and it's interesting. I think you're right, the female director kind of thing is really something that's kind of, I've been in a few films where people kind of really look at who is the director behind a film. So it's really interesting. I wouldn't have said, like, wouldn't have known that would be her first directorial debut, really, because it's, really strong. And actually, Lenita said the visuals are very stunning. So I think, it's a really good film. So yeah.
Catherine's she storyboarded the whole thing, and one thing she said over and over again is, I just want to make this a beautiful film. I just want to make it so that even if you don't even know the plot, you have it on silent, you watch it, it's still just a beautiful film. Watching it, I think it totally is. She completely succeeded, beyond our imagination. So.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, thank you. I mean, there's not much more we can say about, just if you haven't seen A.E.S.O.P, you should watch it. And if you have seen it, this is an independent film. It's really hard to get independent film made, distributed, and out to the audience these days. So as an audience, you have the power to make these films successful. Use your social media, your friends, your family, listen to what you're watching. They ask for recommendations. You actually are instrumental as an audience in getting films out there. So if you have watched this and you love it, send a tweet, send a Facebook, because it really does make a difference. And we thank you for joining us on this Q&A today. We hope everyone's found this really interesting. Thank you for everyone who submitted their questions as well. Hopefully it's given you a bit of an insight into how film gets made, the journey that it goes through. and just feel a bit more connected as well, because I think it's great to see it on screen, but it's nice to know how it's made and who's behind the film. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and everyone, so thank you Johnny, Nicole, Erin and Corinne. It's been great to have you here today. Lesflick has just relaunched its platform, so for anyone who has been following us, we've got a new URL and a new platform. If you subscribe, you'll get a new email today. But we're really excited because we are bringing out apps and new functionality, and you'll be able to see A.E.S.O.P and 100 other titles so far, more coming. So please check it out. There's so much good quality content on there. A lot of the independent film that you want with the stories you want doesn't get marketed fully, so they just don't have the budgets like the celebrity films do. So if you want the good stories, have a look, because there's lots out there. Just don't necessarily get it in front of you, but we're working on improving that as much as we can. So yeah, thank you everyone. Any last passing words from anyone? If you can all share your social in the chat as well, if you've got social that you want people to share and follow, do put that in the chat, because I think that's always good for people to connect. But yeah, any last words from anyone?
Thank you so much for doing such a great job at hosting this, and for us to be able to hear questions and answer stuff and hear what people think is so great. So thank you for that. You're amazing.
Brilliant. Thank you.
I spelled that wrong. I just spelled my thing wrong.
Yeah, and thank you, Lesflick. You've been outstanding. We really love everything you've done for this movie. And definitely, people watch a lot of great movies on Lesflick. Just keep watching. A lot of great content on this site.
Well, hopefully more to come as well. We're constantly trying to add more stuff when we can. So we've got all the chats and everything. Erin, I don't know if you've put them on the public one.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
How do you go to the public one?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, maybe.
Well, good. I messed up on the wrong one.
There's Erin. Hang on, I'll put it across. I've got.
Okay,
Corinne.
it's the second one since I misspelled it the first time. Doing good. Doing great.
Yes,
I can't figure out how to comment onto. Okay, thank you. That's
all right. I put it. There we go. And Nicole, do you also have your skits we can put on as well?
Yes, we're sharing. Our characters are named Charlie and Lily, and we're sharing our social media on January 1st. So it's going to be Charlie_Lily, but I'll write it too. But it's not like live.
Is Lily Lily?
Lily, yeah, and I'll write it in the thing. I'm trying to look at my own Instagram. I'm like, what's that name? I think it's that. Yeah.
Okay, Charlie and Lily, social live from January 21. Jeez, it's nearly 2021. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. We've got the Roller World movie as well. Let's put that up on the
Yes, I want to follow that.
Yes.
Very important.
Vampires.
And then to follow Lesflick. Brilliant. So yes, thank you everyone so much for joining us. It's been great to hear from you all, your journeys, what you've enjoyed, just give us a little bit behind the scenes. So yes, everyone stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you all soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you everyone.
Bye.
Bye.